Hello, welcome back to FM Live. My name is Mike Usrey, and today we are going to be talking about our overflow tanks for the NA Miata, specifically a limited edition, woohoo! Okay, limited quantity, discounted tanks, and they're discounted for a very good reason, and we'll tell about that in just a little bit. So anyway, we're talking about tanks, not the kind that shoot big ammo and you use in war and stuff like that. So sorry if that's what you're looking for, you're in the wrong place. But if you have questions about this that I don't cover, talking about drop it down in the comments below, because we will be looking for comments with questions that we can answer at the end of the video. We did get a lot of questions beforehand, so I may answer your question already, so hang around. First thing first, I mentioned these aren't any kind of weapons of war. What are we talking about with tanks? So these are coolant overflow tanks. Normally, your stock overflow tank looks something like this. You can tell this one's rather drab. It's actually not the worst condition one that I've ever seen, but they are made of plastic. They usually get yellow, and sometimes when they get old and nasty enough, actually here you can kind of see maybe on the bottom, they get really discolored and brown and even greenish, weird colors. So it's plastic. They do have a limited lifespan. It will wear out, and eventually at some point the plastic will actually get so work hardened that it'll crack, and then all of your coolant that you're supposed to be storing in there for when your engine may need it suddenly goes away because it doesn't actually hold water anymore. Get it? So these coolant overflow tanks, when you need to replace them, yeah, you can get new plastic ones, but why would you do that when you can get this amount of sexy bling bling in your engine bay? Duh. So these are FM coolant overflow tanks. Specifically, these are NA. And for those of you wondering, yes, we do have versions of these tanks for the NBs, NCs, and NDs. So don't worry, we got you covered. We're not going to talk about those versions in this video, though, because these tanks are a limited quantity run, because the manufacturer that made these for us actually did a little bit of a whoopsie when they produced these tanks. Now, these tanks look very different. Gosh, let's see. They look very different compared to the stock tank. And that's okay. The reason why we did that is, one, it's a little bit easier for fabrication, but also for two, we wanted to be able to build in some cool features like a sight glass. And it still has, actually, all the hardware's on the floor here, or on the floor, the tabletop. So instead of having the coolant overflow come up through the top and you have all your ugly hoses showing on the top, we have fittings that actually screw into the bottom. And then that makes it a little bit cleaner of an install. But it does the same function. It holds the coolant that you would otherwise be, well, basically it's an overflow. If your cooling system needs to burp off a little bit of coolant, that's where it goes. It's not a real sexy function for the engine, but that's what it does. It is necessary. Your engine will hate life if it doesn't have one, and it needs more coolant whenever things cool down. So it is an important thing. You should definitely take care of your overflow tank, or replace it with a fancy, shiny aluminum piece. So how is this something that you might consider better than stock? Well, besides the obvious aesthetic appeal of a very nice brushed aluminum, really pretty TIG welds all around the perimeter of these plates, it doesn't get old and brittle like a plastic one does. Or I guess technically it does, but it'll probably outlive you before that happens and you have issues. Aluminum, especially in the case of a vented overflow tank, doesn't really work hard in the same way like a plastic tank does, because it's much more resistant to temperatures like coolant that comes out of a hot engine. So this is more of a maintenance thing where you choose to get rid of your grungy old nasty plastic thing for something that looks nice, and technically, yeah, it does actually do a better job at longevity than this factory piece does. Another really cool thing about this that I kind of mentioned earlier is that obviously with the stock ones, you have this kind of goofy cap on here that just has a little press fit kind of thing, and it does its job, but Does it look as cool as this really nice, satisfying knurled cap? No, it doesn't. So this does have an O-ring seal. It is threaded. It is very butter smooth to open and close. It also, because this cavity is a little bit deeper straight down than the cavity that's right underneath the cap on the factory tank. If you have one of those long skinny fillers for our funnel fillers, you can stick it down there in there and it'll hold itself upright. You won't have to like hold the funnel and pour the coolant at the same time. So it's actually handier to use whenever you're just topping it off anyway. So now the burning question that probably most of you are having about why we're discounting these. And that's because, again, the parts weren't quite made to our specifications this first go around. And that's okay because we found a way to get around it. Now I'll show you the special part that you get. So if you are familiar with our 3D printed U-print program, I believe. Oh, U-Design, excuse me. Sorry, I didn't come up with the branding. These are 3D printed adapter brackets. And they're just simple little brackets, and you can kind of see it's a wedge shape. But this helps move the charcoal canister out of the way because these tanks are actually a little bit longer this way than we would have liked, and it runs into the charcoal canister if you don't move it out of the way. So to show you what I'm talking about, because that doesn't make a lot of sense to most of you, I'd imagine, without looking at it, let's go over to the car, and we've got one installed, and I can show you what I'm talking about. We've got one installed here in the engine bay. This is easily the shiniest thing in the engine bay at the moment. And this guy, you can see it is still close to this charcoal canister. That's what this big old plasticky black cylinder is. And the way it attaches, I'll try to hold some of the hoses out of the way, is that it just slides into a metal bracket back here. And hopefully you're able to see that one of these 3D printed adapter guys, actually I'm holding it wrong, there we go, is slid into the bracket, and this helps to angle the charcoal canister a little bit closer to the engine and further away from our new overflow tank. So on this batch, again, the discounted batch that we're talking about now, without this little bracket, the charcoal canister hits the tank, and it's an interference that we didn't feel very happy with. So there is a redesign coming. It will be here probably in the next month or two, I believe. It's a little ways out. But in the meantime, if you would like a shiny, sexy new Coolant Overflow, you can get a hold of one of them at a reduced price with even more parts than the pretty one will have. That sounds like a deal, right? I think it's a deal. So you can see in position here, it uses all of the same mounting positions. There's one down there that you probably can't see. It also has the sight glass that actually at the moment, I apologize, I didn't fill this up with coolant, I forgot to, but if it was, you should be able to see that there's coolant in that sight glass. But you can use this, have a sexy satin, or it's not polished, I'd say, it's more like almost brushed or satin kind of aluminum finish, but still be able to see what your coolant level is and make sure that you have coolant in the tank without opening the lid every single time. Otherwise, it fits just like factory, has the same mounting points. It does have a overflow to the overflow, so rather than having that really weird cap on it, like we were talking about earlier with this guy, where it's got basically a little puke hose off to the side, this one does have a vent. It's in the back here in the corner, and it just, if you do have an instance where you've got like a radiator cap failure and all of your coolant does start gushing out of your overflow tank, it's going to just puke out the side over here instead of out. Well, it's basically the same position. It's just you don't have to look at this weird, ugly kind of looking cap thing. So just a prettier design for trying to do the same function as the factory tank. So that's it in a nutshell. Really pretty simple. The installation is not hard. I think I used a 10mm ratchet, and that's for the 3 bolts on the tank. These attachment points here, here, and here. And then these fittings here, you do need a, let's see, 7/16 for these little guys, little barbs, and then a 1/2 inch for the hex on this. This is what goes in the bottom. So it would thread in here. So the hose that comes off of your radiator from the cap, it feeds into the bottom of the tank like this via a hose. And this is hidden. You probably didn't even notice that you didn't see it when we were looking at it in the car earlier, but this is actually run underneath the charcoal canister. So it's very stealth. If you like kind of a tucked look, then this does do that. And it's not hard to do. I think I did the installation in under 5 minutes. So it's really very easy to do with simple hand tools. Don't need anything very special to do the installation of this. We do recommend that you use some kind of a thread tape or thread paste on these threads, but other than that, just wrenches or sockets and you're good to go. No problem. Let's see. There are no other modifications that you have to do to the car to install this tank. This is the only strange thing that you would probably not otherwise have to do. Again, with the batch coming in the future, you won't have to use these, but we're including these at not only free price, but a discounted price. You're literally getting more stuff for less money. It's great. That's how it works. They are limited quantity. I think I've said that, but FYI, once these are sold out, they will be gone. So if you like getting a deal, jump on these now, because once they're gone, the listing will disappear. You won't see them anymore. It'll just be the correct batch going forward when we have them in stock in the future. So if you like them, if you don't mind moving your charcoal canister over a little bit, which is a totally reversible thing. Again, we're not doing any permanent modifications. This is a great way to do it at a bargain. The other question that we got about these is that, are there different finishes available? You know, can I get this in different colors or anything else? No, these are limited quantity because of how they are produced. So at the moment, no, there are no other colors, finishes that are available. It's just this kind of satiny, it's not, if you would call this brushed, it's kind of like a very fine pattern brush. It does have maybe a little bit of grain to it, but it's mostly just a satin kind of finish to it. So it's not like polished chrome. So if you want something that looks nice, but not necessarily old school hot rod looking, then this is a pretty good way to do it. So we do have NB, ND, and NC, did I say that right? NB, NC, ND versions of these tanks. The ND and NC versions at the moment are actually a different brand. They're from Moroso, but they're much the same. They are a fabricated aluminum overflow, or actually they have pressurized tanks, but they, again, replace the flimsy and nasty looking factory tanks. So those are available. They are not discounted or anything like that because they are already full production units, known good, they fit fine, they don't have to have an adapter, all that kind of fun stuff. So those are available. We will also post links to those below, so that way you can get a hold of those on our website too. I sure appreciate your time, your attention, and your interest in our overflow tanks. If you have any other questions that I did not answer in this video, please feel free to comment down below or contact us via email at support@flyinmiata.com, or even give us a call, and we would be happy to answer more questions or give you other recommendations for cooling upgrades if you're looking for that kind of stuff in preparation for this upcoming spring season. So thanks again for your attention. We will see you all next time on FM Live, same time Thursdays on 2 o'clock Mountain Time, I think. We will see you here next week. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later.